up.
Yep.
And so we're actually live on air now. Okay. Are you ready to go?
Let's go.
All right. Give me a moment of silence so we get a silence hit.
Okay.
Today we talk about the wild swings of the stock market and what Tony Robbins' latest book, Money Mastering the Game, says. I hate that. I'm going to do it over again.
Yeah.
Okay.
What
Today
what Tony Robbins says in his recent book, it would be a lot easier for you to say that. Because you want to say a verb right after that. So just make a note of that. Okay.
All righty. Today we talk about the wild swings of the stock market and what Tony Robbins says in his latest book, Money Mastering the Game. The first primaries of the 2016 presidential election and how outlandish claims, ruck-making, and rumor got to do it all over again. Sorry.
That's tough to say.
Okay, here we go. This is live, baby. All right. Today we talk about the wild swings of the stock market and what Tony Robbins says in his recent book, Money Mastering the Game. The first primaries of the 2016 presidential election and how outlandish claims, ruck-making, and rumor-mongering affect your health. And celebrating three musical icons of the Boomermale generation who created the background music to our young adult lives. And Tom's going to bring us Life Lesson 8. Welcome to Boomermale.com, the podcast for men 50 plus. Today's date is February 12, 2016. Right now you're here with yours truly and...
Hey, it's Tom Herring, Mike. Good morning. How are you? We are actually doing this on a Friday when we're supposed to be doing it as opposed to a Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. So it's a good day, you know?
It's a great day. It's been a busy week. All sorts of good things happening. We had a pile of rain yesterday, and we had 2 days of almost 70-degree weather. I think we were in the mid-60s. So it's been an interesting week and a busy week. All sorts of great things going on. Well, what's been going on with you? I think you took a couple of bike rides. I saw that.
I did. And, you know, those couple of beautiful days. So Sunday, I went out with a gal friend, and I did about 20 miles on my new bike, first ride on my new bike. So I'm kind of getting used to this Cannondale that my son got me. And then on Tuesday afternoon, I went out with a grade school buddy of mine who's a very good rider. And we did about 23 miles, and it was quite a bit more strenuous. But again, loving my bike and loving being out in that early kind of spring-like weather. I mean, it was crazy. It was almost 60 degrees. So, you know, there's a lot to like. And then, of course, the deluge began this morning, and it's just finishing up here as we are casting right now. So anyway,
that's good. Okay, so it's finishing up where you are. It finished here quite a while ago. I'm farther to the west, so
yes,
different. Good. Well, let's see. You have a life lesson for us this week.
Yes,
I believe it's number 8.
It is number 8, and the title, very simply, life lesson number 8: a penny saved is a penny earned. All right. So, you know, not to be corny or to be too Ben Franklin like with that, but you know, I wrote this chapter because it's a reminder that a lot of our guys out there have had some financial troubles due to just challenges in life. And I don't need to get into the specifics of that, but I would be one of those guys. And it reminded me that there are some really important things you can still do, even as a boomer, to put yourself, and your life into pretty good financial shape. And we will get down here in a little bit into the main heart of the show about a book that I read, which you referenced earlier in the introduction about Tony Robbins, and some really powerful principles, and perhaps the most powerful. It is the most powerful book I've read on financial security ever. And this came out just a little bit more than a year ago, and we'll talk about that in detail. But again, I think this whole chapter that I wrote and this lesson was really to remind me and to remind others that it's still not too late. You can do plenty of things financially to improve your, to improve your life right now at this point in your life, and not to forget about that. So anyway, that will be uploaded later. The full audio recording of it will be up here in the next couple days. So
okay, great. And that, of course, is in the free book, 51 Life Lessons Every Boomer Male Should Have Learned by Now. You go to our website, you can download that in PDF format. And of course, you can purchase that, all 112 pages, in a Kindle edition directly from Amazon, or a soft cover paper version directly from Amazon. The Kindle version is $9.51, and the soft cover version is $17.51. Correct, Tom?
yes, Mike, that is absolutely correct.
Okay, great. So free on the website. There's a link in the right-hand side of the website, and all you have to do is click there and give us your email address, and we'll send you the code to get in. Let's get into our stories for this week. It was an interesting week. One of the things that was wild and crazy was the stock market. There were declines all over the place, all sorts of crazy stuff going on. What were you seeing, Tom?
Well, it's nuts. I mean, it was down 400 points earlier in the week, and then down another 250 yesterday. And today, the last I looked, and the market's still open right now, is for another 2 hours. It was up 250. And, it's just one of those things where the market's going to do what the market is going to do.
Well, Tom, it's interesting because this is a market that is much different from when we first started working and first started saving, 401k or something like that. At that point in time, if the market broke 1,000 or broke 1,500, depending upon, what decade we're talking about, that was a big deal. Hell, it's over 17,000, 16,000, 17,000 all the time. So a 400-point swing is like a 40-point swing at 1,000. I tend not to worry all that much. I don't get so concerned about it.
Well, you got a great, your attitude is great about that, Mike, and that's the right way to go. But, there's a lot of people that just, it seems that the more money you have, the more worried you get. That's just kind of another axiom of life. And you hear these CNBC talking heads, one expert, one financial guru's, advocating it's a great time to buy in, and the other's scared and says, put everything into savings, savings bonds, basically. I mean, it's kind of that sort of thinking, although they're not savings bonds anymore. And so I can understand, where people can get riled. There's just, if you pay a lot of attention to that. But I think one of the things that I want to remind people is, stay away from the contradicting opinions. And one of the best things you can do right now is, I honestly believe that by reading this book, Tony Robbins, and its title again, Money, Master the Game, is an awesome start in kind of bringing not only some financial security to your life, but actually some ease and some serenity. In this book, he interviews 50, count them, 50 of the world's most brilliant financial minds. They're billionaires, they're Nobel Prize winners, and there's guys like, you're going to know some of these names: Carl Icahn, Warren Buffett, Ray Dalio, Paul Tudor Jones, and John Bogle, among others.
Yeah, so those guys are all, buying their own freeway to drive their $1 million cars on it. What kind of relationship does that have to what my reality is? I mean, I see that he's got like 7 steps in here to follow. Tony Robbins listed 7 steps to follow, but are those really legitimate kinds of things that I can do? I mean, come on now.
Hey, Mike, I'm serious. This is so well thought out, and he applies it to the base. This is for the common man. That's really what the book is about. So, what do you define as common? Well, probably any of our boomer males, for the most part, unless they're in the Carl Icahn or the Warren Buffett league, they're going to relate to this. You know.
Yeah.
So what he does is he lays out. I don't even know if I'll read all 7 steps, but there are 7 really critical steps that he uses this ton of research that he's done in interviewing, and it's all supported by a lot of market data over the last 40, 50, 60 years. And what are the smart things to do? And I'm telling you, if you read this book, he gives you the actual plan to lay out, who to follow, and and let your life kind of take place. And you can leave a sizable estate to whatever you want, whoever you want, whether it's a charity or your children or your family, best friends.
How about a beach on Hawaii or something?
I think that's an awesome thing, and I think
that's a good estate.
The one guy I will tell you that he interviews this guy named Ray Dalio, and so a lot of us, I was not aware of him, to be honest with you, but he is just been like the top dog. He has a fund that's called the Pure Alpha Fund, and it has $80 billion in assets. It's been closed. In other words, you as an investor, no matter how much money you have right now, you would not be taken in. But I think it's just one of these things where, if you take the time to read this book, and it's on Amazon, I think that's where I got it, and just go to Amazon. It's probably in paperback by now. Go through it, take your notes, follow his basic results, his basic steps, and then follow the results, and you're going to be a happy guy. I'm not kidding you. He lays it out so simple and easy to understand language for the rest of us who are not investment MBA type guys, So I can't, I can't stress this enough in terms of our wealth section. It's a great one, and we will have we'll have a little bit of more of a post on this next week on our site at Boomermale.com. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Now, he has 7 steps, but the 7th step is really just go do it. So there's only really 6 steps to this.
Yeah.
So that makes me a little happier. But still, I'm gonna have to read that book to see if it has any relationship to my life. I mean, the guys that he's talking about, these guys are real smart investors. They know what they're doing. They've been doing it a long time. Somehow, I don't think I fall in the same group. But
I think you will. I think you will. Yeah, you and I will debate that offline over an IPA here, maybe even later this weekend. So.
Oh, hey, I'd enjoy that. I'm up for IPA anytime. I'll invest in that.
I'm with you.
Invest in the hops.
Yeah.
Hey, that like we were just talking about, that's a kind of a wealth subject, but it also has health aspects, and it's that stress. It's the stress that comes with dealing with money and all those kinds of things.
Yep.
But there's also another stress, a stress factor happening right now. The presidential debates. You've got these crazy debates going on. You've got primaries happening. We had one in Iowa and we had one in New Hampshire, and now all the candidates have moved on to South Carolina. My wife was actually talking to me this morning, asking why anybody listened to what happened in New Hampshire when, the population of a small city is about what votes there. Very few, just a couple of 100,000 people. It's not a big number.
Well, it's amazing. It is amazing.
So yeah, one of the things is there's all sorts of claims going on, people yelling at each other, all sorts of crazy ideas coming out that, you did this, you did that. They're fighting like school children in the schoolyard.
Tons of finger pointing. Yeah, tons of finger pointing.
It just raises your heart rate, basically.
Well, so it does not only raise your heartbeat, it gets your blood pressure going, and I think you got to be mindful of that. Our guys have got to be mindful of that, and remember that whether you're listening to it on CNN or Fox or one of the other news channels, Bloomberg, these guys. The reason they exist is they're able to stir up emotions, and that creates engagement. You're engaged, and that drives viewership, and that gives them more bargaining power when it comes time to renew a contract because they have more viewers. So you guys all get that. But I have to remind people, because I have a couple buddies of mine who just get so wound up in the political stuff that's going on, and we stay away from the subject, Mike. That's one of when we started Boomermale.com, we decided politics are not going to really be a big thing for us. We don't want to alienate a lot of our viewers, because our political views, that's not important to the messages of health, wealth, and happiness. But here, the reason we're talking about it today is because it can affect your health, and we want people to be mindful of that. So, you know, a couple things that I recommend here, and you know, we've got various posts on the site at Boomermale.com. But remember to just, you know, pause. And if this stuff is starting, you feel yourself starting to get angry listening to somebody, it's time to probably shut off the tube, take some deep breaths, walk the dog, go for a walk by yourself or with your significant other. It's not worth it, to be honest with you. And part of this game now is there are some incredibly polarizing people on both sides of the political spectrum in this particular presidential primary season. So you guys know who they are. I don't have to mention them. And just keep that in the back of your mind. It's not worth your health. It totally is not worth your health. The only other thing I'm going to kind of do you know, what do I want to say? It's going to be more of a suggestion and a recommendation. And one of the good things about our generation of boomers is that we vote, and we've been proven to vote pretty much throughout our entire lives. But here's the sad statistic. I heard this on CNN earlier in the week. Only 42% of the United States participates in the primary, and I believe that spills over into the general election. Make sure that you guys get out and vote, regardless of who you're voting for when that time comes and that, you know, your state primary is up. Make sure you go out and do that. It's a sad comment. I'm hopeful that our kids' generation, our sons and daughter generation, get more active, but they're somewhat apathetic as well. So,
well, that's pretty traditional for the under 25 set or even under 30 set. Till you start having, till you have a mortgage and kids, you don't spend as much time looking at what should happen. And well, we're both children of the 60s. I mean, we were born in the 50s, but you know, we were aware of things in the 60s at any rate, and in high school and stuff like that. And I remember I was involved in the vote because we could get drafted at 18. I remember I was involved in the vote trying to lower the voting age to 19. And because it was 21, and you could get drafted and sent off someplace, but you couldn't vote on it. And that was taxation without representation, basically. You had no representation. So I was involved in that here in Oregon. And it was 19 that we were aiming for, and we got lucky. A couple of years later, it turned into 18. And I remember voting my first time. You know, it was a big deal. It was really important. And it was important probably well, number one, because I was involved in that process, but also because they had just changed the laws about who could vote. Now it's pretty well accepted, so I don't think it might be as big an issue for a lot of younger adults. And you know, they seem to have come out. I mean, Barack Obama got elected by a huge number of young adults. They seem to have come out for that.
Right.
And hopefully they'll continue participating and being involved. But a lot of times the voting record tracks with the mortgage holder. If you hold a mortgage and everything else, then all of a sudden you start worrying about what kind of money is coming out of your pocket, what kind of money is being spent, what it's being spent on. Those start to become real big issues. So it'll be interesting to see how things happen as the younger crowd ages and gets even further involved. 42% of possible voters vote, and the other, what is that, 58% don't vote, huh?
Isn't it just amazing? It's not even a majority of the nation's, you know, electorate. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So yeah, so I'm hopeful that we get that thing going up pretty rapidly here. So,
well,
okay, you have good points. You have good points. So
talking about the 1960s and growing up, and for me, the having the vote at 19 and a number of other things that I was involved in, sometimes peripherally, sometimes involved in more. They were kind of the background of my young adult life. And we also lost, well, in the last month and a half, something like that, we lost 3 musical icons who were the background to our lives. They were the music background, you know, the things we grew up with. David Bowie, Glenn Frey, and Maurice White. Maurice White, I think, was last week. Might have
Yes,
been the
he
week
was.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah, last week.
Hmm.
You know,
Hey,
they were important to our lives. I mean,
they
music
were totally
in
important.
your 20s, that's huge.
Hey, when we were in Eugene, Mike, I mean, you'd go to parties in the hills or wherever, you know, you'd hear you'd hear the Eagles, and you'd hear definitely Earth, Wind, and Fire, which Maurice White was the lead singer in, and some David Bowie thrown in.
Oh yeah.
You heard their stuff all over, and they were just, you know, and I think the point here on this whole thing on happiness is, yeah, they're gone, but, you know, it gives you time to reflect and remember, you know, and appreciate their artistry. These guys were really, really incredible. And you know, for some reason, who really stands out for me of the three of them is Maurice White. You know, the Earth, Wind, and Fire, you know, stuff at weddings and parties. You know, you got
Oh
Boogie
yeah.
Wonderland, Let's Groove, September, Shining Star. And listen, I was at a fundraiser last spring, and there's a performance band here, and they played a lot of Earth, Wind, and Fire, and they did it very well, and it was highly entertaining. You know, I think it's the Robert Lamb, I think, band is the name of it, if I recall correctly. Does that sound right?
That sounds right. I've heard that name before. I don't know.
Patrick Lamb. Excuse me,
Patrick Lamb. Patrick Lamb. Okay.
And then, well, you remember the Glenn Frey stuff. I mean, you know, the Eagles also.
Oh yeah.
You know, Hotel California, Take It Easy, Desperado,
Mm-hmm.
Heartache Tonight.
Well, and then his solo career in the late 70s, early 80s, and continuing, where he was the soundtrack for Miami Vice, which was a big TV show. Everybody wore pastel T-shirts and white suits, you know, or natural linen, unbleached linen suits, things like that. That whole Miami Vice thing was all Glenn Frey. The background sounds, everything was all his sound, his creation. He was the soundscape for that.
I loved his song on his solo album, Smuggler's Blues. You know, there was just there was a great guitar riff in there that I've never forgot, you know, and and you know, and you bring up Miami Vice, and it reminds me of Don Johnson, you know, all slicked up, and that was kind of his big leap, I think, into the, you know, to the entertainment sphere. And then I forgot his sidekick, who was really good too. And you know, that was, you're right, that was on for 6 years, dude. I mean, that was there a while.
That was a big thing. That was a big thing. In fact, one of the guys I know was a gaffer on that show.
No kidding.
Oh yeah, he said that was great times, because you know, they were always at some wild place, some interesting place, always working there and having a good time.
Yeah.
And they didn't, you know, they had a specific look that they wanted in Miami. And if you go to Miami, it has kind of that look, but believe me, the color and the rendition of the color and a number of other things like that of the show is different than the real Miami looks. But they had a specific look, oversaturated colors, lots of tropical blues, lots of bright yellows, things like that. And that really was the look of the show. It was a highly designed look. And, you know, frankly, I think it actually was a postcard of love for Miami, because Miami became a pretty hot city at that point. I mean, it was always a hot city, but it became a pretty popular place, and pretty much a hot city for folks. People thought that was pretty great. Yeah.
Well, Philip Michael Thomas was the guy that was his sidekick. Yeah. I forgot his name. Philip Michael Thomas, and he played Rico. And the producer of that show was Michael Mann, who did a lot of really big, not only TV series, but he went on to do some big screen stuff as well. So, yeah. Anyway, you know, there was some great stuff that Glenn Frey did, and then of course, you know, David Bowie is just, you know, tons of stuff that he did. And he was really an inspiration for a lot of these younger generation. As you and I were discussing earlier, a lot of artists got really.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You know, Lady Gaga and Madonna. Yeah. People like that, where you're creating performance art in your in your performance. I mean, he came out, you know, Ziggy Stardust and, you know, all the other things that he did. He created characterization. He created performance while he was performing. So it was beyond just being a songwriter or a singer. It was much broader than that. And a number of artists have continued that kind of performance style since he was, you know, highly, highly popular. And, you know, he took up a number of different areas. I was always surprised when he would show up with something. I remember I can't remember the song now, the Blue Turtles or the Turtles, something where he became very environmentally conscious, environmentally aware. And that was interesting as well. But yeah, you talk about, you know, Starman or Space Oddity. Now
those are great songs. China Girl, Suffragette City. And then you pointed out to me earlier that he was in a film as well that I did not know of. And what was the name of it again?
Yeah, he did a couple of different films, and the one that I remembered was Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. Yeah. And it's a World War II POW camp story where, well, let's see, he's obviously not the Japanese protagonist in the story. That was played by another person. Yeah. But it was really a two-person drama that took place between the camp commander and David Bowie's character, Mr. Lawrence. And they had a back and forth, a discussion about values, a discussion about truth, all sorts of interesting conversation that went on for a couple of hours. And then he ended up dying in the end. He got killed. Okay. I don't think it was the camp commander. I think it was the second in charge or something. Cut his head off, but you know, one of those kind of things.
Thanks for spoiling the ending for me, Mike. I was going to go watch it this week.
Spoiler alert.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, they were
sorry, guys.
Spoiler alert. No, go ahead.
Sorry, guys. That was real obvious in the beginning what's going to happen. Don't worry about it.
Nothing like a head getting cut off. Yeah,
right. Really. But you know, it's a very interesting story, and it's really a discussion between the two main characters. The rest of the movie that surrounds it, which is not very long, is them interacting with other people to help fill out their background and the reasons why they feel the way they do, and further information in that respect. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting. Yeah, I don't want to go on forever on this, but one of the things I also remembered, my wife and I, let me think, it was our 15th. When we're coming up on 29 years next month of marriage. It was our 15th wedding anniversary. I had a pile of miles and a bunch of other stuff. So I suggested that we take a little trip to Las Vegas for our anniversary. And she agreed, of course. She said, "Oh, well, that sounds okay." She doesn't like Las Vegas a lot, but she's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure, I'll do that." Unbeknownst to her, her favorite band is Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Oh, I didn't know.
So I got us tickets to the Earth, Wind, and Fire show. They were in concert in the Hilton Theater, the big Hilton Theater. They were in concert there. And so we got there. I didn't tell her anything about it. I just said, "Hey, we're going. We got a couple of shows I want to go see. You're gonna like them." Didn't tell her what they were until we got there. And we got there, and I said, "Okay, so we're gonna go see Earth, Wind, and Fire tonight."
So awesome.
And needless to say, I had a great time in Las Vegas. Very good. The other one that she loved was Sheena Easton. Now, Sheena Easton was also performing at the Hilton, but she was performing in it was a small bar, basically. It was a cabaret style thing. And I think there were maybe 100 seats in this cabaret. So I had tickets for that. So yeah, 2 nights in a row, I did a pretty good job. And then of course there was the opportunity to lay around the pool and enjoy some warmth and just like have a good time in March. Whereas if you sit here in Portland in March, you're not sitting by any pools. It's too cold and too wet outside.
Absolutely. So. Well, you know what, Mike? That's a perfect segue, what you just said, because what I was going to add here as we close out this section is, may those guys' songs, you know, Maurice White, Glenn Frey, David Bowie, may they live on in our minds, our lives, and our hearts, actually, and they obviously have for you. So, you know, this is more to be an uplift in let their music just be inspired by how great of talent these guys were, you know, during our lives. So lots of good things to remember is the way I see it.
Absolutely. So there'll be some more information up on the website. We'll have some links and things like that for people who say, who was that, or what was that song again? And so we'll make sure that there's some links and things there for that, as well as Tony Robbins' book and, you know, other kinds of discussions we had, stories we had. Do you have anything else to add, Tom?
I don't, Mike. I just, you know, we've kind of summed it up here real well. So I say carry on, huh?
Okay. Okay. Well, then what I want to do is I want to remind everybody who's listening to this that we have links for everything at Boomermale.com. Very easy, and you can stay up to date with what we have going on there, whether it's shows, storycasts, interviews, any of the other kinds of material at Boomermale.com by going to the site, clicking on the link over on the right-hand side, and you can sign up for the email that'll give you an announcement. Oh, hey, here's what showed up today, and you can read through it, have a good time with it. Also, if you want to, you can click on that link over there that says get a free copy of 51 life lessons every boomer male should have learned by now. You get a free PDF copy, 112 pages, totally free. It's a PDF format, so you can read it on your Kindle, you can read it on your iPad, you can read it on your Android device, you can read it on your desktop computer if you like sitting there for that long. You can read that on any device. You can also purchase a copy from Amazon for the Kindle, so it's in Kindle format, and you can also get a copy in softback, so you get a nice paperback. The Amazon copy is $9.51, and the paperback version is $17.51. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you showing up here. If you enjoyed this, please tell a friend, send a link to them. You know, let them join us too. It'll be a great time. You can find us on your favorite podcast source, whether that's iTunes or Stitcher, as well as the upcoming Google Music. I understand they've got their podcast thing in beta. It's out with a whole bunch of folks. I don't have it on my phone, but I'm waiting to see it show up. And we're launch partners there, so we'll be on that as well. You can just check our website for details. As far as social media, you can find us on Facebook as Boomermale and on Twitter as @Boomermale. In both cases, that's one word, all one word, Boomermale. Tell us if you want to see us on other social media, or that's, you know, whatever you track with. And well, you know, lastly, Tom, we have 3 maxims. Let's remind everybody what they are.
3 maxims, fellas. All of us at Boomermale, as always, want you to be well, do well, live well, and until next time, happy trails.